I'm Anthony Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. We at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association practice the Buddhist teachings as taught by the 13th century Japanese Buddhist sage Nichiren Shoshu. It is Nichiren Shoshu who teaches us that it is the Lotus Sutra that is the highest of the Buddha's teachings. Now, my lecture today is why I left the SGI Buddhist Sect, a Proud Buddhist Lecture. Now, in America, there is a Buddhist sect called the SGI, or they're called the Soka Gakkai International. The SGI is a Nichiren Buddhist sect founded in Japan. They are one of the most powerful and wealthiest Buddhist sects in the world. Years ago, they were worth more money than Bill Gates and Microsoft. They were worth over $125 billion. They are a media conglomerate, and they literally control politics in Japan. In America alone, the SGI has invested over $3 billion. There are very few American religious organizations that can compare to the SGI when it comes to money. The SGI have a slick and institutional marketing concept. And for example, in 1993, the SGI purchased property right next to Harvard University in Boston. It's called the Boston Research Center for the 21st century. These Japanese are wealthy and they are masters at marketing. In Chicago, for example, they not only built a brand new community center, they used their wealth to get Daisaku Ikeda, their leader, an honorary street named after him. When you have billions of dollars, you can buy yourself an image or create an aura of greatness, like getting a park named after you in Chicago, or go out to America and buy high dollar real estate and marketing, and you can be able to say to yourself, let me give you an example. The SGI offered to give $180,000 to the city of San Francisco in exchange for naming a gate to Franklin Park after SGI President Daisaku Ikeda. The gate would include a plaque of Ikeda's mentors. According to the city's Recreation and Park Department, $80,000 would be used for construction and landscaping of the gate, and $100,000 would go to Recreation and Park Department for general operating support. Now, see, Daisaku Ikeda and the SGI are so rich and powerful that they purchased an association with Dr. Martin Luther King. They arranged for Daisaku Ikeda to get an honorary degree from Morehouse College, where Dr. King attended. They used the Dr. King name to promote a photo exhibition of Gandhi, King, and Ikeda shown around the world. This is the fact. When Dr. Martin Luther King and black people were getting their heads busted fighting for civil rights, Daisaku Ikeda was nowhere to be found. In fact, look at a picture of Dr. King in 1967 with Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh. I also want you to see a picture of Malcolm X with Japanese people from the Peace and Justice Center in Japan. So Japanese were connected to black people. However, Daisaku Ikeda said nothing, did nothing, but now he wants to take a bow with Dr. Martin Luther King in order to promote himself. Now, again, the SGI spent $500 million to build a resort in Florida. They spent another $500 million to build a school in California. So they are exceptionally rich people. Now, what I want you to do, and all you have to do is Google, because I wrote a letter 25 years ago on March the 18th, 1991 to NSA. Now, NSA was Nichiren Shoshu of America, or it was the branch of the SGI located in America. See, I started Buddhism in 1974, and I quit the SGI in 1991. Now, in my letter, this is what I wrote. Quote, in 1990, the Berlin Wall fell, Gorbachev introduced reforms in Russia, and Mandela was freed from prison. Despite the world ethos, NSA in 1991 does not have African Americans on its executive boards, its hierarchy, or African American males on its staff. Policies that systematically omit a culture does not reflect the view of a culture, and it is xenophobic and insensitive towards that omitted culture. Buddhist growth for African Americans in Memphis is in a state of abeyance, and it is vacuous and nearly moribund. Buddhism for African Americans in Memphis is culturally irrelevant and insensitive to the needs of African Americans. In Memphis, the demographics clearly reflect a dominant African American population. Despite the demographic, African Americans are expected to acculturate, assimilate, and subjugate to the cultural dominance of Japanese and whites. Yet the consideration of African Americans is negated. Unquote. Now, this is from a letter that I wrote the SGI, or rather NSA, in 1991 when I left the organization. In Memphis, Tennessee, it was horrible in that Daisaku Ikeda brought this Japanese leader by the name of George Kasaba to Memphis, and he had African Americans speaking with Japanese accents. They would say things like, I am going to be a good Buddhist. Yes, I am going to do. They were saying things like hike, and African Americans had lost their sense of cultural identity, and I could not take it, so I left the SGI. Now, it is the Lotus Sutra that teaches us that all phenomena manifest as true entity. That is the 10 aspects. That is, all phenomena has an appearance, a nature, and an entity, a power, and influence. Then there's an inherent cause, and then there's a relationship, then there's a latent effect, a manifest effect, and you got a consistency from the beginning to the end. Now, in plain and simple terms, what you have is what the phenomena of 3,000 worlds or Myoho shows is that you find in the SGI Buddhist organization, you find African Americans who have supplemented a white master for a Japanese master. Now, you may be Buddhist, but you are still not free. Now, my lecture today is why I left the SGI, a Black Buddhist Lecture. Now, the Go-Sho are letters that Nichiren Shoshu wrote to his disciples, teaching them Buddhism. Now, there's a letter called Letter to Nikkei. Now, it reads, quote, if someone were to kill our parents and try to offer us some gift, could we possibly accept it? Not even wise persons or sages can avoid the hell of incessant sufferings if they accept offerings from slanderers. Nor should you associate with slanderers, for if you do, you will share the same guilt as they. This you should fear above all. Unquote. You see, our Black history and our culture and the truth of what happened to our people we should not negate that. When you take away one's culture, one's history, and rewrite, this is like killing our parents. Now, in regards to Black Buddhist history, Daisaku Ikeda and the SGI are no better than a racist white who enslaved our parents or who did evil to our ancestors. Now, I want you to look very carefully. Now, Daisaku Ikeda wrote a book. It's called The Living Buddha. Now, when I read the Daisaku Ikeda book, The Living Buddha, I had to take my exit from the SGI. Now, in the book, The Living Buddha, now, quote, this is what Daisaku Ikeda writes. He writes, "Finally, I do not think it is possible to determine for certain the racial origin of Shakyamuni, who lived so many centuries ago. It cannot be denied in ways of thinking associated with Buddhism. There are characteristics that strongly suggest some connection with Indo-Aryan culture, people and their culture. Whatever the racial origin of their founder, there is not doubt that Buddhism grew up in an Indo-Aryan cultural sphere." Unquote. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to the average person who reads this is a racist buzzword when you write that Shakyamuni Buddha grew up in an Indo-Aryan cultural sphere. See, this is what black people must understand. Daisaku Ikeda is not just making a casual statement about Buddhism. What Daisaku Ikeda is teaching is that Buddhism is a white religion with no black Buddhist history. See, Daisaku Ikeda writes in this fictional account of the Buddha. Now, the book is called The Living Buddha. This is not even a true historical account. He writes a fictional account of the Buddha Shakyamuni, but in his book, or in his fictional book, he espoused a philosophy of white superiority. See, the Living Buddha, when he writes, whatever the racial origin of their founder, there is not doubt that Buddhism grew up in an Indo-Aryan cultural sphere. Ladies and gentlemen, this is deep. See, what Daisaku Ikeda is teaching is a racist partial truth. See, what Daisaku Ikeda does, it dismisses black Buddhist history that extended over 500 years after the death of the Buddha. See, the Buddha was born in Magadha. Now, the Magadha Empire was founded by black people, and its founder was Sisu Naga. Please understand that 150 years prior to the birth of the Buddha, it was the Greek Homer who wrote, India was known at the time of Homer as Eastern Ethiopia. Even when we go 150 years to the father of history, that was Herodotus. Herodotus wrote that there were two Ethiopias, one east of the Red Sea and one west of the Red Sea. Please understand that the Buddhists were Naga. Now, look at the picture of the Naga Buddha. You will see the Naga Buddhas with the Naga snake. You will see the snakes. You will see this in Egypt. You will see the Naga in Africa. See, what you have to understand is that in India, the black people were called Naga. Now, In Africa, they were called Nubian. Now, it was Herodotus who wrote that the city of Meroe was the place where the Gymnosophist, it was the height of the Gymnosophist. See, people were not called Buddhist at the time. The word Buddhist or Buddha is a relatively modern term. Now, back in the day of Buddhism, they were called Gymnosophists. See, the word gym means naked, and sophist meant philosopher. So they were called Gymnosophists. You can look at a picture of Alexander the Great with Buddhists, but he was not with Buddhists, he was with the Gymnosophists when Alexander tried to conquer India. Now, many white people often say, what difference does it make whether the Buddha was black or white? Now, I am clear to white people. It is a big difference because we are talking about racism and the rewrite of history. Now, let me be clear. There was no Indo-Aryan influence of Buddhism until about 100 years into the AD, until the birth of Mahayana Buddhism. Now, see, one of the things that we must understand about India, and I want you to look at the picture. India, or ancient India, comes from the Harappan culture. The Harappans, or the ancient Indians, were black people. There is archaeological, anthropological, genetic science, literary science that tells about the history and culture of India, and we can pinpoint exactly when whites came into India. India, the word India means black, and there were no white people actually into India really until the AD. Now, it was well into the AD, or 1900 years ago, when racism started. See, the birth of racism was the caste system that started in India. Now, it was under the white Kushan king, Kanishka, when the Buddha changed from black to white, and it was with the start of Mahayana Buddhism, where Buddhism was separated by race, culture, and language. Now, I want you to take a look at the Gandhara images that was commissioned by King Kanishka. What King Kanishka did, because he was a white king who had conquered India, he had his carvers to carve images of the Buddha, and he carved the images of the Buddha to look Greek. You will see all the images of the Buddha. Now, one of the things about the images of the Buddha that you were clear about is that King Kanishka gave them white hair. Look at this picture of the Buddha, of the Greek Buddha, because he was of the Greek ancestry, and you will see the hair on the Buddha is straight hair. Now, prior to that, or if you look around the world and you see images of the Buddha, you always see the black hair. This is how we know that the Buddha was black, because the black hair is going to be curly. Now, also understand, let's look at Buddhist history. Now, in the 4th century, in 29 BC, they had what was called the 4th Buddhist Council. Now, at the 4th Buddhist Council, this happened in Ceylon, which is today known as Sri Lanka. Now, in the 4th Buddhist Council, they got together and put the Buddhist teachings in writing. Now, when they put the Buddhist teachings in writing, they came up with what is called the Pali Canon. The Pali Canon is 13 times larger than the Bible. Now, in 29 BC, they wrote in the Pali Canon about the blind Mia of Africa. See, the blind Mia lived in Miro in Africa. And the Pali Canon or the Buddhist writings mentions about black people. See, what you have to understand, that Daisaku Ikeda said the Buddha grew up in an Indo-Aryan cultural spirit. Now, we have to be clear, at the time of the Buddha, and for 500 years after the Buddha, there was no such thing as an Indo-Aryan cultural spirit, because black people practice Buddhism. Like, we can go to the time of Alexander, when Alexander faced the Nandas. Now, he backed away because these brothers had like 80,000 elephants, and Alexander was not a soldiers were too afraid to go in there and challenge these people. Now, after Alexander, the Nanders were conquered by the Murians. Now, the Murians was another black empire. They were called the Murians. Now, one of the famous Buddhists that was in the Mauryan Empire was King Asoka, who sent edifice. He did carvings, and he sent carvings all around the world, and you could see the Asoka edicts. Now, I want you to look at a picture of the Apadak Temple in Naga, Sudan. This is in Sudan, or Sudan, Ethiopia, Egypt. You will see the Asoka edict. Please understand that Buddhism was in Africa 1,000 years before it ever even got to China or Japan. So when you hear about or you read that a Daisaku Ikeda says that Buddhism or the Buddha come up in an Indo-Aryan cultural spirit, you can understand that what Daisaku Ikeda is promoting is white Buddhism or white cultural and Asian cultural imperialism. See, let me explain something to you. You see, this man in his writings said the most stupid thing you ever want to hear in your life. He says, we cannot determine the racial origin of Shakyamuni, who lived some 3,000 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. There exists no people 3,000 years ago that we cannot tell their racial origins because of science. See, let me explain. We have archaeology. Archaeology, apparently, many of the black SGI members don't understand, but archaeology is the study of human activity through the recovery and analysis of material culture. The archaeological records consist of artifacts, architecture, biofacts, ecofacts, and cultural landscapes. See, all of this that we're talking about. See, we can show you an artifact of Magadha. We can show you the architecture. We can show you the biofacts, the ecofacts, the landscapes. See, we have pictures. See, it is ignorant for a Daisaku Ikeda to tell you that we could not tell the racial origins when we have a science called archaeology. Now, just to show you how stupid what Daisaku Ikeda writes, even if archaeology fails us, we have a science called anthropology. Now, anthropology is the study of various aspects of humans within past and present societies. Social anthropology and cultural anthropology study the norms and values of society. Now, linguistic anthropology studies how language affects. Now, we have anthropological evidence that proves that the Buddha was black. We don't have to listen to some Daisaku Ikeda who only talks about 3,000 years. That is nonsense. We can go back with science and tell about cultures millions of years ago. Now, we have what is called genetic science. Now, Genetic science is the study of genes, genetic variation, and heredity in living organisms. It is generally considered a field of biology, but it intersects frequently with many of the life sciences and is strongly linked with the study of information systems. We have the technology to determine the racial origins of Shakyamuni Buddha, despite what Daisaku Ikeda writes. Now, let's go further. We also have literary science. Now, scientific literate comprises scholarly publications that report original, empirical, and theoretical work in the natural and social sciences and within an academic field, often abbreviated as the literature. We have literary science that state the racial origins of the Buddha Shakyamuni. For example, there is a book called the Royal Asiatic Society of Ireland and Britain. Now, this is a free book that you can Google. You had the top scholars in Europe to write about India. They left books. There's a book called The Anaclipsis. It is a book that was written by Sir Godfrey Higgins in 1833, which he tells that the Buddha was black. This, ladies and gentlemen, let's put it this way here. Godfrey Higgins writes that all the ancient icons show that the Buddha was black. Just look at any Buddha statue. Those that were not written but carved, that's archaeological evidence, and all of them show the black hair. Their hair just like mine. Now, we can also go right to 6th century AD in the ancient capital of Japan in Nara. There is a temple called Toda-ji Temple that was in the ancient Japanese capital. The Japanese emperor's name was Shomu, and they built the largest indoor statue of the Buddha in the world. The largest indoor statue of the Buddha is in the world, and it's in the ancient capital of Nara. In that Buddha statue, you see a black Buddha at the temple Toda-ji. This is called the Cosmic Buddha. This is a UNESCO, a United Nations World Heritage Site, and you see the black Buddha right there, and then you have a Daisaku Ikeda who takes a fictional book and he tries to rewrite history by saying we cannot tell the racial background of the Buddha, or he came up in the Indo-Aryan cultural spirit, when we can look at the artifacts and see this is not true. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it was in India where racism started with the caste system. The word caste comes from the word vana, which means color, and this is the time when they subjugated black people with the caste system. I left the SGI because in the SGI Buddhist organization and with all of the Japanese Nichiren sects, there exists a culture of ignorance. There also exists a culture of exclusion, whereas all the black Buddhist history, culture, and language has been excluded from Buddhism. Especially in the SGI, what Daisaku Ikeda did, or what you would find in the SGI, you will have black women who are leaders, but these black women have no sense of the black Buddhist history, culture, and language, because the SGI teach exclusion. They teach Mahayana Buddhism that separates Buddhism by race, culture, and language. Now, There is a silver lining, however, because we live in a changing society. I am so happy that we live in a changing society, and what you're going to have is that we have a new generation of African Americans. You see, we African Americans have lived with 8 years of seeing an African American family in the White House. You see, when you look at President Barack Obama Jr., who is the president of the most powerful man in the world, who can keep himself clean, to be respectful, to be honorable. But most importantly is that President Obama understands his black history. He promotes his black history. Even his wife, Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama minored in black history. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we now have a new and a renewed black culture, a renewed black history. You could look out into the world and you will find African American women who holding a sign up that says Black Lives Matter. I was just reading just this morning about a singer who was performing the national anthem for the Philadelphia Eagles, and she complained because she wanted to express herself. And you can look into the San Francisco 49er quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, who says Black Lives Matter, who is protesting. You see, so we have a new African American, a new black person who are now standing up. You see, it was Dr. Martin Luther King and other blacks who fought for civil rights, who fought for justice. So we don't have to look to a Daisaku Ikeda. You see, you're going to have African Americans who are not going to sing the song Sensei. They are not going to deal in hero worship, because these people are educated to their culture, to their history. They are going to now look on the website and they can see that the SGI and Daisaku Ikeda extricated all the black culture and all the black history from Buddhism. You see, when we look this year in 2016, we saw African Americans pioneer new phases in the world, and that a black woman was in the shot put, and a black woman won the fencing, and we had even a black woman in swimming. We can now look around and see a Michelle Obama who is a rock star. These people, like Michelle Obama, knows her black history, she knows her black culture. We will have black women who grow up, who went to the Oprah Winfrey School, who knows that you can achieve anything in the world, and you now have black women and black people who now, like myself, are going to stand up against the SGI. They're going to look at the SGI, they're going to look at a fictional book called The Living Buddha, and they're going to look at the racism of the SGI, and they're going to challenge it. But more importantly, Black Lives Matter, and you're going to have black people that's going to stand up. Anyway, let's bring this lecture to a conclusion. The SGI trained blacks to be ignorant of their black Buddhist history. Other black people are going to wake up. The word Namu means to awaken. The word Yo means correct. The word Ho means the law of the 3,000 worlds, and the word Ren means cause or represent the lotus flower, whereas the flower and the seed is simultaneous. Ge means effect. The word Kyo means teachings. In regards to black people, they will manifest Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, or awaken to the correct law of cause and effect teachings that is inclusive of our black history, culture, and language. I am Anthony Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association, telling you why I left the SGI Buddhist organization. I am going to close that I left the SGI Buddhist organization and the Japanese Buddhist sects because I am a free black man. My lecture today is why I left the SGI. Now, again, in the Ghost Show, the letter to Nike reads, quote, if someone were to kill our parents and try to offer some gift, could we possibly accept it? Not even wise persons or sages can avoid the hell of incessant sufferings if they accept offers from slanderers. Nor should you associate with slanderers. For if you do, you will share the same guilt as they. This you should fear above all. Unquote. Destroying black history is like killing our parents. This is why I left the SGI. I am Anthony Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association, telling you why I left the SGI Buddhist Sect. Thank you very much.
Since I've joined NSA, I have changed my views of society, and I have rekindled my desire to attain the American dream.
It's the way in which karma go. Now your ringeto, it's the way in which karma go. Now your ringeto, it's the way in which karma go. Now your ringeto, it's the way in which karma go. Now your ringeto, it's the way in which karma go. Now your ringeto, it's the way in which karma go. Now your ringeto, it's the way in which karma go. Now your ringeto, it's the way. I found myself a brand new mission to help others make a big decision. Read to you as most for religion. It's not the religion that you expect. It's all about the law, the cause and effect. Devotion to the middle of the call of teaching. We do a lot of wisdom preaching. No more life with any drama. We change the words and change our karma. We bring to you the new Buddha way. We bring to you the new way to pray. After long prayers, a lot of meditation, I bring to you the Buddhist conversation. We can change our human relations. We bring to you the culture integration. It's about peace and love and changing situations. This tolerant Buddhism makes a lot of sense. It's about self-development and enlightenment. I made the decision to join the Buddha way. I joined the Buddhist Sect called NSA. Buddhism is new to America and like a tree. What does the word of the Chinese mean? Function to the middle of the call of teaching. Different learning from the Christian preaching. Buddhism makes a lot of sense. Self-development and enlightenment. Becoming a Buddhist is a good decision. Look at yourself and find inner wisdom. The function to the middle of the call of teaching. While we only have Japanese preaching, the Buddhist religion is the way to go. I will find our leader in Tokyo. I wanted to Buddha way. I should follow sensei. I no longer do it his way. Went to a temple called Taiseki Chi. The culture of the temple don't relate to me. In 2014 I left the Buddhist temple. I teach the Buddhism, that's more simple. Nichiren Shoshu man said you don't have the knowledge. I want you to check my logic. The old way I teach Buddhism, I give the people a good rhythm. I'm not like a priest at their temple. I teach Buddhism and make it simple. You don't need a college to explain it. Singing and dancing is the of the language. Culture to the middle of the color of the teaching. We teach it with the wisdom preaching. We can teach the wisdom all of the on it. We follow the religion that's shown it. Teach what it is and don't need them out. We know how to sing and rap. Let me bring some good news to ya. We practice the Lotus Sutra. You don't have to practice here and after. Just do the 2nd and 16th chapter. Discover how a person be in Maria. Learn that Lotus Sutra title. Nam yo ho, ringe ko. That's the way that your karma go. Nam yo ho, ringe ko. That's the way that your karma go. I don't care how the Japanese do it. I'm gonna put a little soul to it. I don't give a damn, don't agree. I practice the way that's really me. I respect and love ya. I'm gonna practice a Buddhism with my own culture. I know you hate my dance and all the twerking. You're really gonna be upset when I start my twerking. We don't follow the rules and we do no rehearsing. The Buddhists have followed the law and no persons. I don't care what Buddhist practice don't suit you. We follow the law and the Lotus Sutra. Nam yo ringe go, it's the way that you call a go. your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito, it's the way in which karma go. Not your ringgito.